Hello everyone, it's Usha Chudasama. Hope you're all having a lovely Saturday and enjoying the lovely sunshine today. Always remember you are amazing. So I'm Usha Chudasama. I'm a speaker, child and adult psychotherapist and author of Amazon best-selling book, Your Happy Child. So I'm passionate about helping parents to empower their children and heal their own inner child through the experience of parenthood and adulthood. So for the last few days, I've been talking about my model, the happy model, and more specifically, I'm talking about the work that I do with children, and all of it is based on the lessons that are in the book. So it's called the happy model. Last time I talked about H, which is the healthy brain, and if you haven't watched that yet, please go back and listen to the broadcast. And today I'm looking at the A, which is all about attention and awareness, and what it means within the happy model, because the happy model is a set of lessons which are consecutive, and attention and awareness is like the thread that runs through. It's really important to know about this bit, because attention is basically wherever you're putting your attention to, because sometimes children can trigger feelings of helplessness within us, and we're left wondering, what happened, and then what we've got to do is think about where was our attention at that time, because children's behavior is a form of communication. And I don't know if you've heard of the saying, but attention goes where the energy flows, or energy flows where attention goes. You can use it both ways. So when problems happen, we've got to think about what was actually happening 5 minutes before, or where have you as the parent been putting your attention in that moment. So that's kind of what we're talking about when it comes to attention and awareness. And it's awareness about how you are feeling in that moment as well. So maybe your children have been arguing or fighting, and they come and run up to you, and you're left to deal with their stuff, and you don't know how to do it, and it might even raise your own annoying or your own anger in that moment. So first of all, the attention is on yourself. Put the attention on yourself in that moment, and manage your state, manage yourself. So maybe you might need to take a couple of breaths before you can deal with your children's arguments. So it's really interesting, actually, because a parent wrote into me, and she said that she wanted some help with her siblings, her children who were arguing and fighting, and it was sibling rivalry, basically. So she said that the younger one teases the older one, and the older one then feels demotivated and then plays up, so he then has behavior problems. So the parent is saying, how can parents support the younger one to stop him from feeling superior, and support the older one to work at his own pace? So there's the question. And I really love the fact that you've sent this question in, because it's a really good question. It's one that comes up so many times, and not just as sibling rivalry, but as friends, peers, even adults have these conflicts that come up. And so basically that's what we're looking at today, how to use the attention and awareness in a sibling rivalry confrontation or a conflict that's come up. And for parents, this is kind of like the number one stress, isn't it, when our children are arguing and fighting, and how do we get them to stop arguing, because we know as parents that one of them is going to get hurt. So I suppose one of the best ways to deal with this is to think about it differently. So when we're looking at think about the word rivalry. think about it, because even that for me brings up the image of opposition and fighting or enemies. And when you have enemies, you've got one winner and one loser, haven't you, usually? So the thing is, what can we do to help them to manage it? Because the thing is, I don't know about you, but most people are not taught, well, most people don't like confrontation, and most people are not taught how to deal with conflicts. So that's one thing I would say, is think about this conflict in a kind of a different way. So see it as an opportunity for you to help your children to learn a new skill, and for your children to actually understand each other's viewpoints. Because actually, in a way, if done properly, sibling rivalry can actually be a positive thing, because once they deal with their conflicts in a positive way, they build a stronger character. They build an empathy for each other's perspectives, whether they agree with them or not. They will at least see what it feels like to be in the other person's shoes. So I would say for that parent who asked me, the question, how can parents support the younger child who teases the older one, who then plays up and gets demotivated and he plays up? So what can parents do? So number one, I would say, is redefine the word conflict, or, the word rivalry, and see it as an opportunity to teach your children how to resolve conflicts, how to resolve that confrontation. So really, what you're doing is actually teaching them the earlier skills of conflict resolution. Believe it or not, you're helping them to mediate, to negotiate. These are like business skills that we use later on in adulthood. But if they've not got it, if they've not learned, if they've never had a conflict and had the sibling rivalry, then they wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to learn those skills. A lot of times, parents say, "Oh, just go to your room and calm down. When you come back," and then what happens is that when they do come back, it's brushed under the carpet. It's not actually being talked about or dealt with, in my experience. And so it's really important to teach them these skills. So what I'm going to do is go through some steps that you can actually do. So I would say, number one, so what do you do when they're yelling and arguing? So number one is stop and think. Stop, remember, and reframe it and think about it as an opportunity to learn. So number two is decide whether you, the parent, needs to mediate. So this bit depends on the ages of the children. Now, have you in the past already given them some skills so that they can, deal with it on their own? If you have, then, you might decide that this is something you are left, leave it to you to decide and leave it to you to deal with. If you haven't, remember, this will be a new habit then. It'll be a habit that you're forming for them. And it does take time, and it does take consistency, and it does take patience. But this is what we do in the Happy Workshop. We learn those skills. We learn to manage those conflicts and the problem-solving process, and so that children are then able to manage it on their own. I had a boy actually once, and he said he was one of 12 children, believe it or not. So can you imagine the sibling rivalry that goes on in that household? And what he said was he was actually not the youngest, but he was near the youngest. So he was kind of downtrodden a lot, he felt. And he said once he learned how to do the problem solving process with me in the Happy Workshop, he was able to then, well, actually, this is what he said. He said, I was now able to think differently. I was able to think about it and separate out my behavior from the other person's behavior. So that's what conflict resolution and problem solving helps the children to do. So So we've said, number one is to change your mindset about what conflict resolution or what, problem solving or arguing or rivalry, whatever, is all about. Think of it as an opportunity. The second thing is decide if you need to mediate. And really, you do need to give them the tools. Number three would be to listen to each person as an individual, as a person in their own right. And then, make sure that you're listening to the emotional words that they're using and reflect that back to them, because that helps to build their emotional literacy. It helps them to understand that actually there is a word to the feeling that I'm feeling. And there is also a word to the feeling that the other person might be feeling, the brother or the sister that they're fighting with. So you're listening to both sides and giving them both, without judgment, giving them both equal time and equal measure, and without, again, like I say, without any judgment. And then ask them, so once you've listened to them, ask them, what happened, what actually happened from their perspective. And then when one person is talking, the other one has to listen. And this is one of the rules that as a parent you bring in. So you've got to listen, and listen empathically, so that you're trying to put yourself in. So the child is trying to put themselves in the other child's place, in the other child's position, so that they feel the empathy. Once they've both done that on both sides, ask them how they feel about the situation now that they've heard both sides of the story, and then let them have a time to come up with a solution and see what the solutions are, and think about what the consequences might be, and think whether it's a good solution. And that would be a good way, I think, to bring your attention and awareness to what's going on for each child. Because if for example in the past you've just listened to their story, you'll find that there will have been a power dynamic, a difference in how the older one might be able to articulate themselves better than the younger one, and so therefore it becomes a one-sided thing, and therefore the child feels unfair, that it's unfair, that you've probably treated it as an unfair thing unintentionally, and then it just creates more resentment. So giving them that, so giving your attention and awareness to what's actually going on, making it a teachable moment, would help them actually to manage their sibling rivalry with confidence and with love, actually. And then to resolve it right at the end, I would even sort of say, ask them to either give each other a hug, or say, forgive me for whatever they may have done. And remember that give each child the option to have I messages. So I feel hurt when you pick on me, or I feel unloved when you tease me, or I feel annoyed when you don't play with me and you play with other children instead, rather than you make me angry or you make me upset. It's getting them to use I messages. So that has been all about the happy model and the kinds of things that we do in the workshop. And remember that I will be running this workshop starting the 21st of April. There will be things going on online in the next week or so. And if you're interested and you'd like to join up, you'd like to sign up, there will be some posts coming out next week, and I will be keeping you informed. But go onto the website, www.healing-feeling.com/happy workshop, and you'll find all the information there. Sign up, and we'll see you when we start. but I will be putting in more information. If you have found it helpful today, whether you're listening live or whether you come back on the replay, please would you share it out, give it likes, and if you have got any other questions as parents, then please do put them in the comments, and I will do another Facebook Live so that it can be helpful to you. All right then. Well, thank you so much for listening, and bye for now. Thank you.